Hello, everybody. It's your friendly neighborhood INFP, and you'll often hear the phrase, it's an extroverted world, or the world is made for extroverts, or extroverts run the world. And that is not entirely true anymore, at least not in the same way that it used to be. With it being far more nuanced, especially now with the age of internets and the age of introverts, with the rise of introverts rising up on the internet and doing like things on the internet and using the internet for their own means and using the internet to get what they want and using the internet to create this, that, and the other. It is not so much a extrovert's world as it used to be, where you had to go out and socialize with people face to face, or even by talking on the phone rather than texting, which has become one of the more frequent ways that people want to go about things is through texting. And the fact that a lot of teenagers nowadays and kids will rather sit down on their phones doing what most extroverts back in the day would have considered a introverted task, when really they are mostly socializing on the phone and could be extroverts. It's just that that has shifted into a different kind of platform that is not entirely understood or accepted yet for some people. Now, in the sense of it being far more nuanced, I would want to say that it's far more based on the cognitive functions. And it's not so much, oh, the world values extroverts more, but instead, what I personally would say, and honestly, what a lot of people would not understand, is that the world values certain cognitive functions and then they value other cognitive functions. And usually, yes, that tends to be the extroverted cognitive functions more so than the introverted cognitive functions. But once again, with the rise of the internet, that isn't entirely accurate anymore either, because the internet has brought out some of the more introverted cognitive functions to be brought to the light, even if people don't notice them, such as Ty and Psy. And even Psy you can like notice out in the world, but like it's a little bit more complicated and you'd have to be like around them. But that's a case for a different time. It would be honestly more beneficial to talk about what functions does the world value more than what functions are less valued in the world. Starting off with extroverted thinking. I believe that this function is what probably runs the large majority of the world. This is the function that gets things done. This is the function that desires order. This is the function that desires success, fame, accolades, like going and getting the thing that you're supposed to go and get, being logical, finding the logical consistencies or inconsistencies, knowing what is fact versus fiction, even if that fact and fiction might be highly opinionated, but you might view it as fact or fiction depending on who you ask of that function type. And so it is this type that honestly a lot of people tend to look towards, and they all will often clash with the introverted counterpart, which is introverted thinking, which will question the logic of a T user quite frequently. But once again, that's a discussion for another time, or we could watch other videos of T versus Ty and how that whole scenario plays out. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to essentially describe why saying it's a extroverted world is a little bit more nuanced and complicated than just leaving it on the extroverted status, which of course T is probably one of the most highly valued functions out there that people attribute a lot of the extroverted traits onto, despite not fully knowing the rest of the traits, because, you know, let's be honest, not a lot of people study personality types out there. They'll just label it introvert or extrovert and then they'll be done with it. So the next function after, if T is not the main function that the world focuses off of, there's going to need to be another function that causes societies to grow, that causes people and groups to be like together, that decides what is moral versus what is not moral, based on the societal standards of the time. And that, of course, is going to be extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling is going to be concerned with the raising up of the kids and the teaching of the people and bringing society into a better harmonious state. It is going to be the one that is going to not want certain negativities to exist. They are going to want things to be in a certain harmony, and if it's not in a certain harmony, then it needs to be gotten rid of in some way, shape, or form, whether it is through talking it out or chasing it out or whatever the case may be. So this is a side that plays to the emotions, that plays to the feelings, that plays to the morality, that plays to the ethics, that plays to what is supposed to potentially make things or have people say, no, this is good, this is bad, and everything in between. So then that function is highly valued because people value the teachers, they value mothers, they value good parents, or at least they should value good parents. I would certainly hope people valued good parents. It's the function that values those that do good in society, those that run charities, those that are generally good people, and oftentimes they'll put a lot of that onto the extroverted feeling, and then it is like the combo of extroverted thinking and extroverted feeling that typically a lot of people will see in the world. The next one that is far more common for people to see, because a lot of people like watching sports, they like watching a lot of adrenaline based stuff, they like watching a lot of drama, they like watching things that might even make their blood boil, if I'm being perfectly honest. And that is extroverted sensing. So this is valued more in the sense of the entertainment side of things, or the enjoyment side of things, or the live life in the moment side of things. People value this function, even though they'll slap this as just like general extroversion, which, once again, a lot more complicated. But anyways, the extroverted sensing is the one that like allows you to live in the moment, allows you to be adrenaline based, allows you to be that entertaining, or at least this is how people will view it, will allow you to be entertaining and hedonistic and whatever in the moment pleasures, things, systems, clothes, desires may appear. It's the one that will often be used in a lot of marketing, because like, check out this new shiny thing, or check out this new beautiful / handsome thing, depending on who is the model for said product. You know, perfumes, colognes, clothes, this, that, the other. A lot of that is being focused toward your extroverted sensing, and it makes sense because the majority of the people are going to be sensory based, whether it be introverted sensing or extroverted sensing. The majority of the world will fall into those two camps, and then those two camps will either have a feeling part of it or a thinking part of it, and depending on what that thinking part is or what that feeling part is, then kind of helps run how things are generally put into place. But then we've got to go into how extroverted intuition kind of bridges the gap between extroverted and introverted tendencies, because this one isn't as highly seen. Like, yes, those of the people who are extroverted intuitives can be seen as being very extroverted, but they can also be seen as introverted because their extroversion isn't as extroverted as extroverted thinking. It's not as extroverted as extroverted feeling. It's not as extroverted as extroverted sensing. It is idea based. It is brainstorming based. It starts off with one thing and then explodes into a bunch of other things. It is the base that brings about various different ideas and patterns, and then it's people like INTPs, and ENTPs who figure out what to do with those patterns, because Ty likes working with those patterns and ideas and putting them into place and like placing it together like a jigsaw puzzle or whatever kind of puzzle they may be interested in. Once again, different subject, different time. But back into what I'm trying to get at is that because Ni is this way, that it is idea generating, that it is mostly in here, that it is something that like a lot of people will attribute to ADHD or idealists or visionaries or inventors, even though inventors can be any other type whatsoever. Not the point. The thing that NE allows for is it allows for a lot of introverts, like it creates that platform for a lot of introverts to be introverts with the internet, for example. That is, or with writing, or with art, even though art can also be extroverted sensing based, but it is one of those things that like generates those possibilities. And it is on the internet where you will see people going about data analysis. You will see people figuring out patterns. You will see people being objective. You will see people being weird, very weird. You will see a kind of chaos that doesn't typically happen the same way outside of the internet. Like outside of the internet, things are a little bit like, yes, while they may be chaotic, they usually not the same kind of chaos that the internet provides. And the reason why the internet provides a certain type of chaos is because there are constant ideas, constant new things, constantly new interesting places, people, systems, ideas, patterns that people can engage in. Whatever you're looking for, the internet will be able to provide it for you, even if it is just cat pictures for the people who just want to like relax after a long hard day and look at something cute, for example. So this is where the kind of divide happens, because people are starting to rely more and more on the internet. The line that usually clearly defined that blurring between extroverted and introversion is starting to slowly meld together. You are starting to see more people use introverted thinking, which is one of the more highly valued introverted functions out there. You will see people using or practicing their introverted sensing, once again, one of the more valued introverted cognitive functions out there, especially because this is what helps with like a lot of accounting, helps with a lot of small details, helps with details in general, helps with like things that happened in the past, helps keep things consistent, helps to remind you of certain things, that allows you to then connect to other things that you're like, oh yeah, because I know about this thing that happened here, I'm able to connect it to this thing that I'm doing right now, and then this detail that I missed, I'm now able to do this and fix this. And that's where introverted sensing is extraordinarily valuable to a lot of people and companies. And then of course you have introverted intuition, which is very, very complicated, and a lot of people don't understand it, but it is the one that is able to kind of predict future patterns. It is the one that looks at everything outside of the box, or as if they're outside the box looking inside the box, as if they're looking at a computer screen or a TV monitor, and then whatever the function is, whether it's T or phi, they're trying to place it together of, okay, how can I use this to create the future to become like this, or how can I use this to help people become like this in the future, or how can I use this to help society become better, whatever way they want to go about it. Or then they will go on to like the more philosophical levels in talking about reality, society, people, and the things that we don't fully understand yet. And then, of course, you have introverted feeling, which is the people who are highly moral, they are highly idealistic, they are constantly trying to figure themselves out, and these are oftentimes also the people who will be doing a lot of the tests, or they'll be doing none of the tests. They either want to find out what labels they are, or they don't want to be part of any other labels, or oftentimes they both don't want to be part of the labels, but also want to figure themselves out, not realizing that in trying to figure yourself out, you're going to have to use some labels in order to try and figure yourself out, but that's a different story for a different time. So, at the end of the day, it depends on the function, and due to the growth of the internet, the lines are beginning to blur, and the things that we thought were extroverted are no longer as extroverted, and the things that we thought were introverted are no longer as introverted, and the paradigm is beginning to shift to the point where I honestly could not say that yes, we are entirely living in a extroverted world, just that we're living in a world that values certain functions more than others. So, with that being said, that has been it for this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.